Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Become an Author podcast. I'm your host, Jessie Bowen, and I am excited about our show today. I have a good friend on, Chris Natzky, and he's a coach, he's a author. We do pretty much the same thing, and we wanted to share with you what it is we do as martial artists, as grandmasters. What do we do and how do we do it as far as corporate training, speaking, writing a book? What are the things that we do that works? And we want to share it with you for you to think about, how can I advance my martial arts? How can I advance my career as a speaker or as an author? Hey, Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Jesse. Great to see you, my friend.
Well, as always, we have fun, and we have so much to talk about when we get together, especially about the things we're doing in public speaking and corporate trainings, and our books and our online training courses. And in many cases, martial artists, they don't hear of people doing these things, or they don't know of anyone, Tony Robinson or Brian Tracy, but we've had a great career doing these things and be able to help people to use the martial arts principles. Now, I don't teach self-defense classes, but the principles of the martial arts is where I'm trying to get the martial arts community as instructors to see that these principles, they fit into everyday life, that, someone may not want to study the taekwondo or karate or kung fu or MMA, but they do want the benefits of that. But before I get into all of that, Chris, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and, the things you're doing? I know you're an instructor and good friend with Bill Wallace, and so we're like cousins in the martial arts. We've had this great opportunity to train with legends in the martial arts, and because you train with legends, these things help you to boost your legacy. So give us some info about you, Chris.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks. So I started my martial art training back in the early 70s, back in 1973. Started in Taekwondo at that time. And fast forward to 74 when I saw Bill Wallace for the first time win his world title on ABC's Wide World of Entertainment. I said, I want to kick like that man one day. And don't know if I've achieved that yet, but really he was someone for me that was always a hero, and really connected with him in the mid 80s. And now from a martial arts standpoint, I serve as the Vice President of Business Development and Black Belt Testing for Superfoot Systems. And so owned a professional martial arts school myself here in the Denver area for 17 years, sold that back in 2013 to focus more on my coaching and speaking business, but I'm still very involved in the Superfoot organization and still very involved in martial arts. We have 3 schools here in the Denver area that my students own, so I oversee those and do black belt testings for them. But you said something at the very beginning that I so resonate with, is utilizing the lessons that we've learned in martial arts. And for me personally, I'll just speak for this, it becomes my metaphor. Right? It becomes my metaphor for transformation, and also a unique, it's my unique selling proposition, if you will. It's where we as martial arts master instructors, we have that instant credibility. And when we can say to people, it's not just about the kicking, the punching, the grappling, but it's in essence these lessons that we've learned, and we can help impart those upon others. Now we've got some real synergy with organizations, with corporate leaders, with associations, et cetera, that want that kind of empowerment training as well.
I started, back in the early 70s in my martial arts training. And I had the great fortune of, bumping into Joe Lewis, and I trained with him. And he was training out of my instructor school out of Raleigh, North Carolina. And I learned so much from him. And then I went on to follow before I even started working with Grandmaster Wallace. I bought all of his videos, all of his tapes. I wanted to be like the champion. I wanted to be like Joe Lewis. I wanted to be like Chuck Norris, and I wanted to be like Bill, Superfoot Wallace. And Grandmaster Wallace has been one of my avid supporters in the publishing of my Who's Who books. We actually have him featured on the cover. Mm-hmm. And so you and I both have been in the midst of great company of these guys, but guess what? They were both authors. They were both teachers, and they teach around the world. And the power of public speaking is, you have to use that every day. If you're a martial arts instructor, your classroom success and your growth is not just about how many punches you can throw in a minute, but it's about your ability to be a great communicator. And this is the reason why taking classes for public speaking, being around situations that will help you to understand that what you say in your class is very powerful, because if you're not a great communicator, then your students, they won't stay motivated. So there's a lot of things here that we do in public speaking, and being able to transfer that over. And then we come back and we add becoming an author. So I know, Chris, you have a great program out there. So let's talk about your book, and then let's talk about the program. So everyone, our podcast today is introducing you to people that are making a difference and adding more value in their martial arts program. Because Chris, I had the same thing that happened to me. Was I wrote a book, and it became so popular that it was outperforming my martial arts school. So, I decided to sell the martial arts school and stay focused in the publishing side and writing my books and doing those things for the place that I'm in my life right now, which was a really great decision. And we've helped hundreds of individuals become authors, best-selling authors, and a lot of really great things. So let's talk about your book, and then let's talk about your training programs.
Sure, absolutely. Well, thanks for asking. The one thing I was just going to mention before is, you talk about martial arts instructors. What other profession do you have where you have basically a captive audience every night, right? So, you have a captive audience of students every night, and whether it's children or whether it's teenagers or whether it's adults. And quite honestly, I realized as I started getting and speaking and going out to schools, that if I could keep the attention of a bunch of second graders, adults were no problem, right? So we have this training ground, if you will, as martial arts instructors. And for me, what ended up happening is I started getting into speaking, and I had a mentor here in the Denver area that was the founding president of the National Speakers Association of Colorado. And he kept asking me when I was going to write my book. And I would see him at monthly meetings. And he came up to me the first month, said, "Hey, how's your book coming?" And I said, "Oh, Joe, I'm working on it, And he walked away. And he came to me the next month, asked the same question. And I gave him another series of excuses, and he kind of scrunched his nose and he walked away. The third month in a row, he came up and he said, "How are you doing on your book?" And I gave him the same excuses I had given him the month before. And he looked at me dead in the eye and he said, "Writers speak and speakers write." And he turned around, he walked away. And I was like, whoa, I just got mic dropped by my mentor. And so it really inspired me to write my first book, Black Belt Leadership. But then my second book, which is where I've got programs around, is I started doing corporate board breaking experiences. And it originated here in the Denver area in a business boot camp that's done annually. And so I've been going back 8-10 years and do it every year. And so invariably I would see people who had done the board breaking experience with me the year before, and then they're back again to do it. And I'd say, hey, how's your breakthrough going? And that you wrote on your board. And 50% of the time they would say, oh my God, it was fantastic. In fact, I'm way ahead of the curve. I did this and this and this. And then the other 50%, people would go, oh, well, I'm kind of still working on it. So I figured I needed to have a tool for them to inspire them and guide them to achieve their breakthrough, which is why I wrote my second book, Breaking Through. And it was basically, how do you start with an intention of what you want to create and what are the steps of achieving breakthrough? Well, that of course then turned into an online program. And now what I do, and I was just sharing with you before you came on and started the podcast, I have group coaching programs around that as well, where I use the book and the online program as the template for the group coaching program that goes over 6 weeks. And that's basically my launching point of doing group coaching. So in essence, what happens is when you write a book, you don't just have, the physical manifestation of it. You have different ways that you can repurpose it, either through coaching or speaking or online programs, whatever you choose to do. And it gives you a multifaceted approach to getting your message out versus just speaking.
That's true. And, I started speaking for a world-renowned program called the Silva Method and Silva Life System. And that was a great experience. Not only I was a student of that program, and I was getting such great results from using their training program, I decided to become a teacher. Now we know that, you can go to the dojo or dojang and you can take classes, but when you begin to teach those classes, there's so much information that you don't know how you know. You don't know how you know it. And so that's really how I got started. But before then, I was very shy, wouldn't stand in front of a group. My first martial arts class, I walked off the floor when I was given a class to teach of brown belts, and I was a purple belt. And so I started teaching when I was a green belt. And I went to my instructor's office and I said, sir, I just can't do this. He looked at me and says, I was wondering how long it was going to take you to get in here. He says, here, take this, go home and read it. Come back tomorrow. And I go, yes, sir. And that wasn't too much better. But
right.
He didn't allow me to quit. He kept putting me out in front of people. He kept putting me out in front of opportunities. And so by the time I made black belt, I already had experience running my own classes outside of the school, doing all these other things. And, he would always evaluate us on class. If I would mispronounce a word in the class, he would bring me in and he would correct me. And some people say, well, oh no, we wouldn't be doing that. But because I was a student and learning, I accepted that. And all those things helped me become better. And I know I did a program for Duke University. I was already on Duke University physical education staff. And they asked me to do a board breaking for a group of executives from American Express. And I'm going, okay. And then I did the training program. And because I was already a certified coach on leadership training and life, then so when I didn't just go break the board, I actually had a message.
I do the exact same thing. Yep. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. I had a message and they really liked the message. So I've been coaching and doing training programs for about 14 years for Duke CE. And everyone, if you don't know what Duke CE is, it's Duke Corporate Coaching. It's a part of Duke University, their business school, but it's rated the #1 custom training program in the world. And having that opportunity to work with companies like Nike, like Raytheon, American Express, and My first out of the country business trip, I did a training program for Swiss Re, and I did the board breaking experience. I did a sword demonstration of cutting through, how to have your breakthrough, and I did all of that, and that was in Switzerland. And I'm going, oh yeah, having to fly first class. I never thought about first class, but I didn't realize what happened when they pulled the curtain. So, I only fly first class. I only fly first class, from that experience. Because why? Because I deserve to have the best.
There you
because
go.
I'm going to bring the best. I'm going to do that. But everyone, we're talking about, that experience, our experience of how we got started and what we discovered by doing these things. And now we're in the book business, and, Chris has an online program. I have an online program. So what's the name of your program, Chris? And I know you have a training class that's coming up, right?
Yeah. So it's right on brand with the book. It's called the Breaking Through Coaching Program. And what we do in that is I again use the book as the inspiration that turned into the online program, which over the 6 weeks we use as our template. And then we meet as a group to do group coaching. And then I do individualized coaching, anywhere from 2 to 3 sessions with the people participating. They also have, I create alliances, or partnerships within the coaching program. So everybody gets a buddy that's going through it as well. And they come into the program identified already with one breakthrough they want to achieve in the next 6 weeks. And that's where they put their focused attention. And when we get together, I'm not only doing education with them, but then everybody is sharing where they're standing in terms of their breakthrough, and they're getting feedback from the group. They get to share their wins, obviously get to share their disappointments and their challenges, and they're getting feedback. And so the synergy that occurs, in facilitating in that way is sometimes just off the chain, because sometimes some of the best answers are coming from that other person in the group. And so, one of the things we get to learn as a martial arts speaker and a martial arts facilitator is how we can also, just like we do in martial arts, we draw out the strengths of our students, right? And the same thing when you're in that coaching world. I just think and for me, it's just absolutely fun, because I love to see people transform. I love to see people build relationships, because we all know the best martial arts schools have really strong communities, and you get to see that in a coaching world as well.
And, the other thing that we get a chance to do, because it opens the doors for other things. And, I'm always asked, all the time, well, I'm thinking about writing a book, but I don't know what to write on. So what I do, I've got over 30 books that I've written, and the last 15 of those books have been international bestsellers. I've got a book coming out I'm doing for Sifu Alan Goldberg. That's going to be coming out at the end of this month. And I've got a book that we released last week. I haven't really done anything on marketing it, because I'm not ready to push it. And so, with Sifu Goldberg, the book that he's created and we've partnered on is actually a biography book on his event. His event is the largest event in the world. 1,200 people show up for dinner, 6,000 people show up for the expo. So that's a pretty large event. And we've been able to create a book, a biography book, to support, to be able to support that. Then I have another book that we have out that's on Amazon now. It's also an Audible book and Kindle book. And this is a Christian entrepreneur book. And the title of it is Don't Procrastinate on God, the Wealth Kingdom Mindset. But I'm always asked, well, how do you do that? Well, where are you right now? What are you doing? Yeah. Now, of course, today I have a book out for becoming author for martial artists. So everything that I do, I have a book on. So someone says, how do you get 30 books? Because there's 30 things that I focused on. This new program that we've just released on procrastination was that last year I had some procrastination issues going on in my own life. So as I'm fixing these issues, I wrote a book about it.
Right.
And and that's the best way to make that connection with what you're doing is take your notes that you've done, now put them in a book.
Yep.
And so that's what I've done. So I've got 2 books I'm working on at once right now. And one of them is titled Be Focused. So I've got control of my procrastination. Now, what's the next thing? Yeah. Well, you have to be focused. That's the name of the book, is Be Focused. Then the second book that we're working on is called Focus Leadership. So you have these ideas, but if you don't use the creativity, then you lose a lot. And if you decide, if you have a good idea and you don't act on it, then you're losing a lot. Your idea could change the world, could make the world a better place, but if you don't use it and you procrastinate and don't take any action, then someone else will find it and they're going to execute it. And then you're going, well, they stole my idea. But see, you just didn't take the advantage on it.
That's right.
I tell folks all the time that, when God has a purpose and you don't take the advantage of it after it's been gifted to you, he's God. He just gives it to somebody else.
Hey, it's so interesting you're saying it, because I literally, we're speaking here in the afternoon right now. I was interviewed this morning for another podcast, and I basically told that exact same story, is that if you've got an idea, you better move on it, because that idea's got to come through, and it's going to go through somebody else if it's not you. And, one of the things that I found is, in terms of writing, what I'm hearing you say, sir, is that you make it part of your regular routine. It's just part of your lifestyle. And I clearly don't have 30 books, but I do know that when I wrote my 2 books, and actually just published an ebook last month as well, what I did is I put together time in my schedule daily for writing. And I've always loved the story. There's a wonderful book that was really powerful for me. It's called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. And in it, he tells this story toward the end of the book about being at a cocktail party and someone approaching a very famous author and asking him, "Sir, you're such a prolific writer. I love your books. I've heard often that authors don't write, or writers don't write, unless they're inspired. Is that how you work?" And he pauses for a moment. He says, "Well, actually, you're right. I only write when I'm inspired. It just so happens I get inspired every day at 9 a.m. Right? So it wasn't the inspiration that drove the writing. It was the writing and the movement that drove the inspiration. Just like as martial artists, either as teachers or as students, there are times you don't want to go to class. There are times you don't want to teach the class, but you go there anyway and you get in the process. And pretty soon it's probably one of the best classes you've ever taught, or one of the best trainings you've ever had. So we're all supposed to be about discipline in the martial arts. So I would just say to people, if you're wondering, hey, should I be writing a book? The answer is most likely yes. And then how do you do it? It's like you make it part of your regular routine. You set your outline, you set a time. That's how I did it. There was just an hour every day. And in both instances, after, a couple, 3 months, I had a book written. It wasn't perfect. It went through editing, it went through revisions, but at least I had it down. And it was just the process, just like a black belt, a student getting a black belt. A black belt's a white belt that never quit. Or, an author is a writer that never quit. You just have to make it part of your regular routine, in my humble opinion.
Well, and everyone, we're sharing some really deep things about what we do. And again, we both are very blessed to have advanced ourselves with skill sets to be in the 21st century. Now, we're not behind the wheel. In fact, we may be a little bit too far in front of the wheel. I guess that's why we're doing this podcast, so we can say, look, this is what we're doing. This is the results we're getting. Then you can take and add these things too, and it doesn't take away. Now, I'm a martial artist. I'm also a minister. I'm deeply involved in, and this part of my life is the spiritual part. Yeah. And, when I look at the greatest book that's ever been written, which is the Bible, books, then, you look at the writers in there, and they were all inspired by God.
Yeah.
They didn't write. That word inspired. And that's what I do. I mean, I look at it, sometimes I believe I'm given problems just to solve them. You're in it, solve this problem. Now go write a book about it. Solve this problem, go write a book about it. And Christopher, you and I both, it's really all about giving back.
Yeah, 100%.
And helping bring someone up. I was, down in Florida, and I was watching the testing you guys were doing, and all the people that were there. It was really about not necessarily trying to fail them and push them to failure, but it was about lifting them up and making them better. And that's what we're trying to do in this podcast. We're trying to lift you up. We've got stuff going on, and I don't want to keep it to myself. I want to share it with someone, because I want to know whether or not I can duplicate myself and what I do into someone else. If I can now help you create a six-figure revenue without having to really work, if I could tell my story and somebody would give me $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 for just writing a book about my story, and you can, you have those things. And this is what we try to do at Elite Publications, is to help you discover your story if you don't know what your story is. And so many people, they don't know what their story is. They're 60, 70 years old, and they don't even remember their story. And
yeah, I had a coach of mine tell me a while ago, he said, Chris, you have to remember the things that you think are ordinary, other people think are extraordinary, right? And, you said something that it's really important. I'm a huge proponent of this. I think we as martial arts instructors, we are in the business of inspiration. And I want to create the distinction between inspiration and motivation. So this story illustrates it, at least it does for me. Years ago, I heard the story of Jack Canfield, who's the author of Chicken Soup for the Soul, right? And how many millions of copies of books they've sold. And he was on a network news show being interviewed on a split screen with Dr. Deepak Chopra, who's also a very profound, prolific author. And in the interview, the interviewer asked Chopra, he said, Dr. Chopra, does Jack Canfield motivate you? And without hesitating, Canfield says no. Chopra says no. And so Canfield's starting to sweat. He's like, oh my gosh, I'm getting thrown under the bus here by Deepak Chopra. And then in an instant, he says, he does not motivate me. He inspires me. You see, to motivate someone gets them to do something in a short period of time, but it doesn't last. But when you inspire, what it does is it lights a flame inside of them that lasts forever. And I was like, I want to be in the business of inspiration. And that's what we do as martial arts instructors, right? Is we're teaching people not only kicking and punching, but life skills, character development, a deeper sense of spirituality inside of themselves that hopefully stays with them beyond their training, whether they become, a 10th degree Grand Master one day, or they've trained for a little bit, but it stays with them. And that little spark of inspiration is what we're giving our students. And you can multiply that exponentially when you're writing books, when you're speaking, when you're developing online programs.
Well, yeah, and that's exactly right. And everyone, if you're looking at, you want to take the easy button and learn the things that we do. Again, Chris has a course. I have a speaker course. It's called Speak with Confidence. And what you do, you take the course, and when you finish the course, you receive a certificate. And then, from there, I give you one of my coaching programs and everything you need to do, even give you a list of companies and individuals you can contact, and that you can get that opportunity to launch your coaching program. I mean, what's the value of your time? And, Chris, people a lot of times that's what they need to be looking at when they're making decisions about what they're doing, is what is the value of your time. Yes. Now, if I can show up to speak for an hour and someone's willing to pay me $3,000 to $5,000 for an hour of my time, that's pretty valuable. but they're paying me for my knowledge and the outcome that they're receiving, from that. So what is your value? Is your value $5 an hour, $10 an hour? Or, what is your value? Because there's not a cap on that. Right. But if you develop the tools, and the tools is in publishing, your tools are in speaking, that is that's a very powerful way to help you move forward. Nobody stands still. So you're either moving forward or you're moving backwards, but you're not on the 50-yard line. That's right. So the question to ask is what line are you on? What is your value of your time? And how do I improve the value of my time? I would tell everyone, if you want to improve the value of your time, write a book. Write a book, and then you learn. And then you want, writing a book is one thing, but then you have to be able to market it. And then that's why I say you really want to go and get someone to help you, so you don't have to keep reinventing the wheel of stuff that, you don't want to have the learning curve of doing. And this is the reason why Elite Publications, we reach out and try to be able to help our clients to be able to do that. Any last words from you, Chris?
Well, I would just say that if anyone is out there and they're going, I really want to speak, or I really want to write, or maybe both, and you're sitting back, but you're just a little bit leery, you're a little bit scared, I want you to think about the business you're in as a martial arts instructor. See, what you're doing, I'm hoping, is you're inspiring their students to move through their fears and have their own personal breakthroughs, because nobody gets to black belt by themselves. And we all know all of the trials, tribulations, and challenges that happen along the way. Well, if you're truly wanting to teach and be the best you can be, you always have to be on that growth curve as well, right? We always want to be growing. I always say that being an entrepreneur is the greatest personal development course you'll ever take, because you have to look at your stuff. If you have challenges, fears, insecurities, you have to be able to face them. So if you're sitting there right now going, man, I'd love to do that, but I don't know where to start. There's obviously resources here for you. Or I don't know if my message has value. I can guarantee you it does. And I want you to think about, how can you show up being the best leader you can, if anyone else, for your students, but obviously for yourself, but to step forward in that leadership role and share, the wisdom and the knowledge that you have, so that you can continue to make your business and your impact on the world expand and grow. Take your message, if you will, out of the dojo and into the world.
Well, that is great. And remember, everyone has a story. You just have to get it out. If you want support on publishing and writing, then contact Elite Publications. That's elitepublications.org. And we're more than happy to set up some free time to help you look at your potential of your book or your speaking opportunity. You can go to my website, CoachJessieBowen.com, and learn more about our online training programs. And Chris, how do we get to your course, which is actually
absolutely. You simply go to my website, which is www.chrisnatzke.com. That's CHRIS, N as in Navy, AT, Z as in zebra, KE.com. My courses and my upcoming coaching program is there. Or if you just want to reach out to me and have a 30-minute discussion, there's ways you can just reach out to me and schedule some time. I'd love to spend some time and chat with you.
All right. That is great. And again, as always, I appreciate you and all the support that you bring. We're gonna bring this large group of people together that realize that we have something really super valuable that they need. And again, we want to make sure that we help you get it and don't become as good as we are. We want you to become better.
That's right.
Everyone, be blessed. And hey, we'll talk to you on the next time.